So this is a classical Pilates mat class for scoliosis. We're going to use a few props today. So we have a half roller, or just a small round roller, and a larger full roller, a couple of little wedges. You can use anything around the house, bags of sand, corn, rice in a Ziploc, whatever happens to be accessible. And we're going to start with our hundreds. So we're going to be performing our typical wedging. You're going to lie on your back. And if you have a forward shoulder, you're going to wedge the opposite shoulder joint with one of your wedges. If you have a thoracic convexity, otherwise known as a bump, we would put a wedge under that rib cage. So right rib cage is typical, never crossing the joint line of your spine. If you have a left convexity of your lumbar spine, you would place your last wedge under the lumbar spine. Again, never crossing the spine. Try not to influence the pelvis. Perfect. So now that our wedges are placed and we're comfortable, we're going to get acquainted with our shifting and breathing. If you have a thoracic curve, you will shift away from it into the concavity, which is usually shifting to the left, and breathing into the left to fill that empty space. With that in mind, we're going to begin with our hundreds. So bring one leg at a time to tabletop. Slide the arms and curl up from the rib cage and hold in this position. Some of the wedges might not make any more sense. Go into a neutral spine if possible. Begin your hundreds. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Really get a nice sense of pressure under those arms. And rotate that right shoulder back and down if that is your forward shoulder side. For a more advanced version, you can extend your legs up and out to an angle that is comfortable for you, lower if possible, or remain high, or come back to your tabletop position. You're halfway done. Are you counting? I'm sort of counting. 5 more. 4. I'm usually pretty good on that. 3. It might be slightly off. 2. And take a pause, relax, knees to chest. Now that your hundreds are finished, let's do a nice stretch. Bring the knees to your chest, capturing behind the knees, and just stretch the low back. If you felt any strain during that exercise, you may have overdone it. And now we're going to go into roll up. So the legs are going to be long on the mat. Flex and rest your legs long. Arms are going to go up overhead. The wedges are still in place. We're going to do 5. Inhale to prepare and lengthen. Exhale, the arms and the head come up together, curling through that thoracic spine, rounding to stretch the hamstrings forward. Hold on the inhale. Exhale, curl back slowly. Articulating your spine and reach overhead. Inhale again, flex your feet, hold the legs down, and exhale, curl up, number 2. Remember that this is great for the sagittal curve of your thoracic spine, not necessarily for your lumbar spine, but the articulation is nice. And 3. If you feel like your curve is too prominent and you are having a difficult time rolling, doubling or tripling your mat may be more helpful, so you have more cushion and less hard surface to negotiate. Always keeping that C shape. Last one. Beautifully done, and stretch. Holding right here, let's think about how that right arm could externally rotate, and that will fix that shoulder. Good. Rolling back for your very last time to rest. Readjust your wedges if you need to. And we're now going to go into our single leg circles. So the wedging is still in place. One leg is long, one leg is up to the ceiling. Since our arms are no longer going to be busy working, we're going to perform a teapot on that forward shoulder side, which for Helena is the right side. That will externally rotate and flatten the shoulder. Don't forget to side shift away from your convexity and breathe into your concavity. If you need to modify, bend your left knee for stability. We're going to perform 5 circles. You're going to be going around like a clock and stopping in the center, 1. And inhale, exhale, 2. Pelvic stability is the name of the game. So keeping a neutral spine and reverse. Breathing into your concavity, shifting into your concavity and stabilizing your pelvis. And we're going to switch legs. The leg can be long or bent up for stability. Plant the pelvis in circle, stop. Feeling as you draw the circle that there is an outside of the circle and a center of the circle. So you're crossing your midline and leaving your midline. Reversing, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And rest. We're going to perform rolling like a ball. Again, if you have a large curve and it's difficult to articulate your spine, a very padded mat will be helpful. Let's leave the wedges in place. They will be mostly irrelevant, but we can ignore them for now. We're going to curl up and capture your ankles from around the outside to come up into our rolling like a ball position. Start rocking forward and back to come up to your seated position and pause. Hold it. Good. This is going to be all about the C shape of your spine. Great for kyphosing your thoracic. Can you side shift and breathe into your concavity? Using your elbows as resistance, push your knees against them, engage that core, and without your head tossing, you're going to inhale back to your shoulder blades, exhale up and stop. And inhale back, exhale up and stop. Notice how your heels don't move away from your tail and your knees don't move away from your belly. Maintaining those spaces and shapes. Hold. Let's stay here for a moment. If you're having a hard time rolling, you can certainly stay in this balance and perform only the balance part of this exercise. Rolling back down to relax now. Readjust your wedges as you need. And we're going to go into our next exercise, which is single leg stretch, double leg stretch. For single leg stretch, bring one knee up to tabletop. Capture your ankle with your same side hand, curling up, and capture your knee with your opposite. This is not mandatory, but classical. Extend your opposite leg long out, really squeeze that glute of that side and roll your shoulders back, side shift if you can, and start breathing into your concavity as we switch. Pull, pull, and switch, pull, pull. Now you have the option of stretching that knee towards your body and getting that nice hip stretch, lengthening the opposite leg away and squeezing the glute, or stopping the knee from coming too close to your body and bracing it with your hand like a wall. This will give you more hip flexor activity, which is good on your weak lumbar side, and more core activity, and also less hip flexion, which sometimes is irritating. Take a pause and prepare for your double leg stretch or double leg reach. Readjust your wedging as needed, bringing the legs to tabletop one at a time. We will curl up as in the hundreds position. Capture your shins with both hands and hold a tight ball. Focus on how your ribs are close to your hip bones and your shirt is madly wrinkled. Inhale your arms and legs away. Maintain that wrinkle connection, ribs to hips. Circle the arms and recapture the ankles. Inhale, we go lengthen away. Maintain it. Exhale it in. Continue as you breathe into your concavities and shift if possible. You can remove the arm circles if they're uncomfortable and just hold your arms up to the ceiling or hold your hands behind your head. And let's perform one more extension. Inhale out, exhale in, and relax. Going into spine stretch next. So to get there, we're going to perform a beautiful roll up as a transition. Extend your legs long on the mat. Raise the arms overhead, inhale the length. Exhale, curling up, one vertebra at a time, and sit tall. Let's mosey back on the mat a little ways and move your wedges out of your way. Legs are going to be long and hip distance apart. Spine stretch or spine stretch forward is intended to be a thoracic curve only. Imagine a wall behind you. Sitting tall up on a neutral pelvis, you should feel your sit bones. Flex your feet and inhale up and over a thoracic ball. And exhale, articulate back up tall. You can play with the breathing here. You can inhale, prepare, exhale to flex, inhale to hold, exhale to return. Keep rolling that right shoulder back into its socket and go for number 3 repetition, kyphosing, shifting, breathing into your concavity. And let's do one more rep. Up and over, maintain that long, tall lumbar spine undisturbed. And relax. We're going to go into corkscrew. So because of the order, we have to reposition our wedges once again. The traditional or classic corkscrew allows for rotation and movement of the pelvis off of the mat. We're going to modify that because we don't want to rotate or torque the spine at all, as there are probably already rotations present. One leg at a time to the ceiling, and teapot the shoulder of the forward shoulder side shift away from your convexity, probably to the left, and breathing into the left. Both legs are going to drift to the side without the hip leaving the mat. Circle down and away. You see that one leg gets shorter, one leg gets longer, and center and stop on a dime. We reverse the direction. Your size of circles will be dictated by how stable your pelvis is and your ability to keep your hips down. Notice that her torso and pelvis are stable. We are not leaving the mat with the hips or spine. Use your abs to navigate your circle, and this is a good breathing opportunity. 2 more. And pause, knees to chest. We're going to go into our swan dive. The best way to get up is going to be for your scoliosis to log roll to the side. Pushing up. And now we're going to go on our belly, using one wedge if necessary. If you have a prominent rib cage on one side, you will place a small wedge on the front of that prominence in the rib, usually the front left, but it will be different for everybody. For swan dive, the extension of your spine is very good for your lordosis improvement, which typically needs work, but sometimes that lordosis work gets too low in the low back. We want to focus on lordosis improvement around the lowest rib line. So we're going to bring our hands alongside of us and perform just a swan dive prep. So bring your hands to the mat, and we're having the legs apart, the tush is under, the belly is up. We're going to go 3 rocking maneuvers and find where you want your extension in your spine. And 2, roll that right shoulder back, shifting into your concavity if you can, and breathing. And then after the 3rd one, we're going to shoot those arms and go into our full swan, reaching up, up. If this doesn't work for you, you can touch both shoulders into a teapot maneuver and continue your swan like this. Excellent. And take a rest. Preparing for single leg kick. We are still wedging, and we're going to modify the head down as needed. For single leg kick, you will typically be propped up on your elbows. And in this position, people tend to dump into their upper back and cause a flattening and lordosing of the upper back. We want to kyphos the upper back. So if it's possible to perform that while you're up, Wonderful. If you cannot maintain that and you want to come down flat, you could take your small half pillow, place it between your breasts to create a kyphosis artificially, or you can stay up and kyphose actively. Your choice, Helena. Good. She's going to choose to stay up and kyphose. We have one leg that is going to go flex, kick, 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 extend it out, and switch, kick, 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 extend away. Focusing on the hamstring, glute connection, lifting those abs up, kyphosing the top spine, shifting to your concave thoracic side and breathing into that side. One more rep on the left and rest. Going into double leg kick. Now we're all the way down, head turned to one side, clasp the hands up high in the thoracic spine. Again, remember that you're going to want to do your extension approximately at your floating rib line, about where Helena's hands are. So now we're going to do 3 kicks on the exhales. Exhale, exhale, exhale. And inhale, extend the legs and the spine up. Watch that neck. And exhale down to go kick, kick, kick. And inhale, extend. The head is going to turn the opposite direction each repetition. Extend. If this is too difficult for you, you may need to hold a band or a strap in your hands if you cannot clasp your hands together, or if you have a shoulder issue. One more repetition. And rest. A nice child's pose is in order after all of that extension work. So push up, extend back, hold this for a long arm, long spine moment. We are not going to focus on roundness here. We're going to focus on elongation, traction, space in the spine, breathing into that concave area, and prepare for neck pull and scissors. Going back onto a face-up position, we will need to re-wedge. How's Helena doing?
Great.
Fantastic. All right, correcting for your shoulder, your low back, your upper back. Now, like roll up, we're going to have a lot of articulation, terrific kyphosing, not wonderful to improve the lumbar curve, but it's great for core strength, hip flexor strength, and obviously articulation of the spine. So the hands behind the head are going to make this much more difficult. Flex those feet, reach out, inhale to prepare. Exhale, lengthen to curl up, dropping the rib cage. And all the way up and reach over. Keep this kyphosing happening in your spine. Pull the abs in tight and roll back up to a flat back and pause. From here, we're going to get super tall and inhale, exhale back into a hinge, or she's going to perform the curl. This is fine. We're going to do the hinge later. That's okay. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, glue those legs down and curl forward and reach to go C-shape, kyphosing that back, shifting and breathing. This time, let's peel up tall up to a wall and stack the spine, hands behind the head. This is your hinge, which is really great for your hip flexors, holding as long as possible, and then curl down to finish the exercise. Choose the opportunity here that you like best, whether it's curling back or curling to a flat back and performing the hinge. Remember, we want a nice, strong hip flexor on the side of your lumbar concavity. One more, Helena, and we're going to move on to our scissors. And stretch, externally rotate the right shoulder, side shift, breathe into it, and curl back for the very last time. Inhale, exhale, and finish it. We're going into scissors. We're still wedged. Readjust them if you need to. Take one leg to the ceiling and curl up. Capture that leg as high as you can for a nice hamstring stretch. Extend your other leg long across the mat and squeeze that glute. Relax your shoulders, kyphose, shift, breathing into your concavity. We're going to do a double pulse and switch. Double pulse, switch. So it's a gentle hamstring stretch. Keep dropping your shoulders, kyphosing and shifting. The leg that scissors down must be active in your glutes. Keep your glutes turned on. One more each leg. And bend your knees into your chest, hands behind the knees to give yourself a stretch and relax your head down. We're moving on to our side lying legs. We have our props ready. We have a small roller and a large roller, depending on which curve we're going to be propping. So you choose the side you would like to start on. Helena's side lying. She's going to lie on her right side, which is most likely going to be her thoracic convexity. So she will need the small wedge under her rib cage to support that curve up. Make sure you're placing it at the apex of your curve, meaning the largest area of your curve. And once the pillow is in place, good, you're lying on probably what is your forward shoulder. So outstretch that arm all the way and maybe tug the shoulder underneath you so that your joint is aligned and you're not rolling on it to create a more forward shoulder. Now the pillow under you is giving good support to your curve, but we haven't fixed its rotation. So staying heavy on your pillow, tug it forward a little tug, and that should give you the feeling of a slight derotation in your upper back. We have many, many options here with the legs. We can be long legs lined up with your mat. We can have the legs bananaed forward. We can have the bottom leg bent for stability. So choose your option. And your top arm can be on your hip as she has, long arm, or braced in front of you for stability. So we're going to do our point up, flex down, and circle. So choose a long leg on the top, and however you want the bottom leg to be is wunderbar. Extend your leg long and away, keeping the hips and shoulders stacked, opening the chest. Remember that you're going to be shifting away from your thoracic curve and breathing into the concavity. We're going to point up, flex, down, point, up, flex, down. And notice if you're lifting too high, is that dumping too much into your waist? Is it firing too much into your strong low back muscles? Modify your range of motion as you need to. We're going to keep the lower ribs pushing forward to give us a nice low back arch and possibly rounding your upper back as we work. And hold down, soft point, and find circles up and around for 10. Stabilizing your pelvis and lengthening your waistline and your spine. Again, be aware of what muscles are working here. We want to be working our weak zones of the spine and obviously our glutes. Lengthening is the name of the game. Good. Bend the knees into a chair position. We have done abduction and a little bit of rotation, but now we're going to add more rotation with our clams. Kick your feet forward so you look like you're in a perfect chair position. Flex your feet, chest out, tail out. Keep those ribs forward and rotate and close. Nice. We're going to do 10. So that is 2. You want to, keep your hip from rotating and borrowing into your spinal rotations at all, lengthening that top waist, and feel that deep glute rotator working. And breathe into your concavities. When you're finished with your 10, we will hold it open and pulse it for 10, 9, 8, and rest. If you're feeling ambitious, you can pause the tape now and repeat the series. We're going to flip to the opposite side and re-wedge, probably with the larger pillow, because now we're probably going to be lying on her lumbar convexity, and that will need to be supported by a larger pillow under the waistline. But again, put the wedge where the apex of your curve is. It perhaps is higher. Okay, so now the forward shoulder is likely your top arm. So we're going to teapot that top arm to correct that. That teapot gets a little crazy sometimes and floats around and gets lazy. I want you to pull it straight up to the ceiling like I have a string pulling a puppet. Lovely. Tugging that pillow forward will derotate your lumbar spine. Should have done that first. Excellent. And now we're going to extend the top leg long. And now this is your weaker lumbar side. So the more lengthening and lordosing we do, we really want you to feel your right low back working if that is your concave side. Point up, flex down for 10. Lengthening and breathing and shifting down into the floor. So you have the pillow to support your lumbar spine. Your rib cage is free to shift towards the floor into your concavity. Breathe into that concavity and resist your foot movements and your leg movements. When you have completed 10, you will pause and circles. Pick a direction. Make sure you're finding a nice symmetrical circle that has a back side to the curve as well as a front side to the curve. You always end up cheating the circle a bit too forward and missing out on some good glute work. Lengthening and still hopefully feeling some work in that low back muscle. Pushing the ribs forward, shifting and breathing. 10 after you've completed in the opposite direction. And prepare for your clams. Kick the feet forward to a chair position, flex them. Chest out, tail out, re-lordos, and open, close. Again, make sure the pelvis doesn't move, rotate, or kink up towards the rib cage. Working that deep rotator, last 2. And hold it for pulses. Maintain your long spine, ribs forward, hips stable, breathing. And relax. We're going to log roll onto your back and remove the pillow to go into a figure 4 stretch because you deserve that. Ankle over the knee, grab up behind your thigh to bring the knee to your chest and hold. Good. Just breathe into the tightness and make sure that you're not leaning on the right or the left side of the spine or pelvis. Stay centered and also elongate both sides of your waist, right and left. Don't rush it. You switch when you are ready. Our next exercise is teaser, and we're going to perform a modified and then a full classical version just to play with which method gives you the best hip flexor work. So let's start in a tabletop modified position for teaser. And we're going to bring the arms up overhead as if in roll up and circle those arms around to curl up for teaser, curling through the thoracic spine, lift into a lordotic spine, which is a non-classical variation. Inhale here, holding long spine, ribs forward. Exhale, tuck and curl back and control. Inner thigh squeezing will help your work. And inhale back again. Exhale, kyphos, and curl through it. Find your balance point. Use the legs as leverage to get up. Find that flat back hold. Inhale that moment and exhale, curl down. Let's try a classical version. Legs down long on the mat. Arms long behind you. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, curl and deadlift the legs. Simultaneous. Inner thigh. Come up to the flat back if you can. Probably a lot more difficult now with that strain. Inhale that moment. Exhale, curling back. Inner thighs helping. One more rep of your choice of methodology and exhale, curl. Flat back if you can. Stay C-shaped if you need to. Inhale that moment. Exhale down through the inner thighs and the core. And pause. Let's do a regular roll up. So keeping the arms behind you, flex your feet long, and we're going to roll up to prepare for our hip circles. Inhale this length. Exhale, curl all the way to a seated position. And now plant your hands behind you. Remember that we have done corkscrew and we modified to keep the hips down. Same thing with hip circles. Extend your legs up to the ceiling. And without the pelvis moving, they drift to the side, down, around, and up, and pause. Reverse your direction. Nicely done. Notice if you can side shift into your thoracic concavity. Breathing, you're doing fabulous. You might have noticed that we switched can-can, right? We did not perform can-can because there's too much rotation in can-can. Rest and stretch those hamstrings. It looks like you might enjoy that moment of a hamstring stretch. Beautiful. Our next exercise is swimming. So we're back into our prone position, wedging under your prominent rib cage as needed. And another wedge is going to be probably and possibly under your forward shoulder side of your arm. Can I have you scoot back a little bit towards the end of your mat? She's doubled up 2 wedges on her right arm. So long arm is now slightly padded up because that was a forward and internally rotated shoulder. That padding will help her derotate in that joint line. So for swimming, we're going to begin modified, one arm and opposite leg lift and lengthen. And down with length in mind, not worrying about the height of the limbs. Think about where your extension's happening in your back, not dumping into your low back, kyphosing your upper back if you need to. If you're having a hard time maintaining kyphosis, remember you can always take a small pillow, place it between the breasts to create kyphosis in your spine. Side shifting and breathing into your concavity. We're now going to go into all limbs up and reaching long and swim when we're breathing normally and lengthening. Her neck is long, her legs are long. You're going, you're going, you're going. And breathing normally for 5 and 4 and 3 and 2, and push back to child's pose to stretch and go into a lengthening position, preparing for leg pull front, or as we like to call it, leg pull up. Flipping yourself around to a forward-facing plank position. No wedges necessary. But it is possible with this exercise, you're going to feel a lot of hyperextension in your knees, and that could be uncomfortable. If we need a little modification for that, here comes a magical ball. Sorry, placing it behind your knees will help you with that possible issue of hyperextending your knees. Your hands are going to be placed behind you. They're placed deeply into cement to push you up, but make sure you don't dump into a flat upper back. If it's possible, to kyphose. You're going to inhale to prepare and exhale hips up to perform the forward plank. Holding this position, one leg lifts and come back down. And opposite leg, lifting the hips as you lower the leg. And lifting the hips as you lower the leg. Continue to kyphose your upper spine. Side shift away from your curve and breathe into that area. Remembering that the hip flexor on your concave lumbar side needs more work. You could perform some extra reps on that side, maybe the right. 3, 2, 1, and take a rest. Beautiful. Turning it around, we go into leg pull back or leg pull face down. In leg pull face down, we need to be very aware of the hand position and the wrist. If your wrist needs support, you can roll up your mat and put a little cushion under your wrists, letting your fingers go downhill. Roll your shoulders back. Likely your right shoulder is the forward. Try to externally rotate your right arm joint before you even begin the exercise. Kyphose your upper back. And side shift away from your curve. Likely your right low back is your weaker side. Step back on that side first. Engage your core and second leg joins, holding. Thinking about your corrections of the right shoulder external, side shifting, breathing, lifting one leg. We go 1 and place it down and switch. Now you can do repeaters on one side, depending on what school of thought you have come from. Focus on how you are strengthening that right side right now. She's choosing the right side and hopefully not dominating in the strong muscle group. So we might do an extra set here on the right and focus on that weak muscle group. When you're done, We will gently come down, child's pose again. Lengthening between exercises is a wonderful thing for your spine. Reaching away. We are almost into home stretch, going into side kick kneeling. Depending on your curve side or your height, we may need to modify your side kick kneeling. Let's go into the position and see how it looks. Bringing one hand down to the mat and one hand behind your head and unfurl to a long spine. If that's creating too much bend in your spine, we want to rectify that, possibly with a standard box. Under your arm. Onto your elbow. Let's try this alignment and see if it feels more correct. And if you're not quite there, you can try another prop, possibly a moon box or half moon box on top of that. How do you feel?
That feels good.
Okay, good. So she's on her right side, which is her right strong thoracic side. So the hand behind the head on the left hand, we're going to need to actively side shift up and away from that curve. Bringing your head into a neutral alignment, looking right at me, and perform our leg lifts and lowers. In this position, you have many options of lower lift, circles, kicks, bicycles. Making sure that we are only working the muscles that need work and not grabbing and dominating into your strong side. This is your strong lumbar side, most likely. Make sure that you're not feeling domination there. We have our lordosing, our shifting and breathing actively. Sitting back down into your knees to take a side bend stretch. We're going to allow a side bend for the first time, stretching out that concave the thoracic spine. If we move the box to the opposite side now, or you can just flip your back to me, we're switching arms. We are now going to be resting most likely on the weak thoracic side and need to teapot the forward shoulder of the right side. Find your alignment and perform your exercise with your ribs pushing forward to find your lordosis, kyphosing the top, side shifting down into your curve of your thoracic spine and breathing. Again, you can perform lifts, circles, bicycles, or kicks. And be very aware of where you feel your musculature working. The top side of her spine would likely be her concave lumbar spine. Hopefully that's where we're feeling the work. And take your nice side bend stretch and stretch that lumbar concavity. This is Mermaid. There are many issues with Mermaid if you have scoliosis. Right now she's sitting in the position, but her pelvis is tilted. She's leaning and about to go into a great side bend, which is not going to represent your curves well because there are usually 2, if not more curves. So side bending, although is lovely and not bad for you per se, is not necessarily corrective or beneficial to your scoliosis. So we're going to modify this into a cross-legged position, or if you would like to sit on a small box, that would be fine as well. So feel symmetrical on your sit bones, and we're just going to lengthen vertically, bring the arms up all the way to the ceiling, and just lengthen your spine as if you were hanging. And from here, let's push the ribs forward to lordos and round the top if possible. Side shift into your concavity and breathe into your concavity. And on your concave side, elongate that arm further up to the ceiling. So straight up, 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 up. And then alternate stretching your tight side on your thoracic. Up, 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 up. And then bring it back, symmetrical stretching. Bring your hands down behind your skull, giving a pull up like you're pulling your neck away from your spine to traction your spine manually. Breathing into your concavities and relax. This might be nice to do at the end of your mat class as well, but in the order, this is where Mermaid lives. We're going into Boomerang. Sitting long-legged, ankles crossed, be aware of your pelvis becoming unlevel. The arms are long by your side. Externally rotate that right side shift away from your convexity. And inhale to prepare. Inner thighs connect. We go up and over. Crisscross the legs the opposite way. And rolling back through to teaser. Hold it. Try to come up into that flat back if possible. Gently control, fall forward. And stretch. Clasp the hands. This can dump into a flat thoracic spine. Try to stay kyphosed, breathing and shifting. Swim those arms around, back to tall spine, and round 2. Inhale up, and exhale up and over, inner thighs, and switch, and hold. Curl through to teaser, and lift flat back if you can. Side shift and breathe. Swim around, capture, stretch. And rest. You can certainly perform more reps if you are feeling spicy. We're going into seal. Similar, very much like rolling like a ball, but this time the arms are on the inside of the inner thighs to act as stabilizers for the adductors. So press your elbows against your legs and your legs against your elbows, rounding and kyphosing the spine, scoop the core. We're going to roll back to the shoulders at an inhale, exhale up, and clapping from the upper inner thighs. And clap at the back if you're able, clap at the front if you're able. Good balance, Helena. If you're not able to perform the claps, don't worry about it. Continue the rolling to massage your spine. You can always triple your padding if your spine is not participating and allowing you to roll. Hold and hold the balance. This is an option to do holding and balancing only. Squeeze the inner thighs, kyphose, shift, and breathe. And relax and come forward to prepare for push-up. Staying here for a moment, think about how push-up could be a transition just like that, from seal to come all the way to standing. Very difficult to do and a bit dangerous because of the inertia. We don't want you to go sailing off into the distance. Preparing for a push. Toes apart, heels together. Lift your arms all the way up and find that length again. Tractioning your spine, diving over your thoracic kyphosis down to the mat. We go walk, walk, walk. Be aware of your kyphosis, shifting and breath. Chaturanga or wide push-up, 3 and 2 and 1. Hold, down dog back to stretch. And walk, elongate your spine in that moment, and roll up, articulating your spine to reach back up again. Lift and connect the inner thighs and dive up and over your kyphosis, rolling through your lumbar spine and walking out. Fix the shoulders, kyphose, shift, and breathe. 3, 2, 1. Down dog and hold here. We're going to just stay in this position and lengthen your spine. Pull your hips away from your spine and find a traction moment. You can certainly perform more reps and do this at the end. This is a wonderful moment for your spine. We're going to walk back and roll up to a standing position. And you are done. Beautiful job. Thank you for doing mat Scoliosis Pilates with us today. We'll see you next time.